Yeah, it's very helpful. But I bought these ring lights
Mm-hmm.
from like Shenzhen, China. You know, like when you go on Amazon and you search for electronics, like the top products um are gonna be
Chinese.
from China.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be the cheapest in every sense of the word.
Right.
So like they don't last.
Yeah.
And so yeah, my ring light I bought two of them, and one of them just broke one day, and then a few months later the other one broke.
I've got some like big lighting that seems a little too much for what I got going on in here. And I've got this little ring light. I've had this ring light, man. I've had it for a couple of years. I think it's from China, but I really lucked out with it. But it's starting to flicker a little. I think it's going out on me too.
But it's
Um,
a good one.
it is a good one. I can probably find it again and shoot it over to you. But yeah, it's really
That'd be
good.
cool.
It's served me
Yeah,
well. This is the third time we're already recording. By the way, I like to get a little candid right there before you even know.
that's cool.
This is the third time you've been on the podcast. I believe the first time that you've been on that we're not live. I switched it up, did some format shifts, and started doing solo episodes, and then also took it off the live. Frankly, I don't like the chat. And I don't like to have to worry about the chat. I think it kind of interrupts the flow of the conversation. But you're definitely one of my favorite guests, if not my favorite guest. This is the third time you've returned. And your second appearance is our leading on the audio only platforms is still the top download. You knocked the previous leader off almost 2 months ago, and you're still running strong. We had a heavy hit. I don't know what the fuck happened last week, but we went somewhere between like 25 to 35 downloads a day to like 81 downloads one day. All of a sudden, I just got 81 downloads from like all over the world. Like America isn't the leading consumer of this podcast. We're big in France and also
Yeah,
India. India's come up too. So I'm not really
really.
sure if they're interested in what I have to say or they just like the sound of my voice. I don't know. I wish
Or
they'd
maybe they
write
want to
in.
hire you.
Maybe they want to hire me. Yeah, that could be
I
it
get
too.
a lot. I've lately gotten a lot of calls from India, from recruiters
Mm-hmm.
who are interested in my tech skills. They're recruiters too. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it might be that. A lot of the contracting stuff that I do, I go a lot through India, but it's always like they represent another company, which may
yeah.
be representing another company or the client. Usually, like it's 2 or 3 levels deep, which can get a little
Oh,
frustrating handling those calls all the
yeah.
time. You know.
Yeah.
But so anyway, how have you been, Melinda? Of course. It's been, like I said, almost 2 months now. Melinda, me and you, before we get into how you've been, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we met. You are the one person that I've ever met from Twitter because we met
Really?
originally on Twitter. Yeah, how many people have you met on Twitter?
Oh, well, remember for a while I was doing like some like liberty activism,
Mm-hmm.
and so I probably started meeting people that way.
Gotcha.
Um, so yeah, so I was doing like Liberty on the Rocks for a little while. I was doing some Restore the Fourth, which was like anti-surveillance activism
Mm-hmm.
for a while. And so yeah, I would say that, maybe I've met a couple dozen people that way. And
Wow.
then like a few friends otherwise, like, it all kind of overlaps. But yeah, it's fine. I mean, despite the fact for Twitter having a reputation of being a place for lots of mental illness,
Yeah,
um,
totally.
I've I've not encountered too many psychos.
I'm not one of the psychos, right?
No, no.
Yes.
you've never you've never made me feel in danger. That's what I
Uh,
mean. When I mean like psycho, I don't mean like somebody with mental challenges. I mean,
that
because we
is
all
me.
we all have that. We
Okay.
all have that. Oh my
Got it.
gosh.
All right.
Um, but they, but I mean like, oh gosh, like please leave me alone type of psycho. You
Yeah.
know, don't
Look,
get the hint type of.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been on both sides of that fence. But I'm glad that you don't think of me as a please leave me alone psycho. Um, and I'm glad we get to talk. You know, and we always kind of it's always in spurts with us. We'll have like long periods of talking and then silence, and
Yeah.
you know, maybe this is all just some elaborate plan to get us talking more. You never know with me. I always got two
I'm
or three.
totally cool. I'm
Mm-hmm.
totally cool with not talking to somebody for years and
Mm.
I meet up with them like over lunch or randomly or whatever and then talking for hours. Like I've never been one of those type of persons who like if a friend drifts off and they do their own thing for a while,
Mm-hmm.
months or whatever. I mean, some people take offense to that. They'll be like, "Oh, this person isn't calling me every weekend for brunch
Mm.
anymore, so therefore
We're not
they ain't
friends.
a real one."
Yeah.
I just kind of like I'm kind of chill about that because maybe I might do that too, and it's no offense. It's just sometimes life will take you that way. You just
Yeah.
you could, and it could be something drastic too. You never know with the other person. Maybe they're getting swept up by like a bunch of crazy shit. You just don't know.
Yeah.
So you gotta give them the benefit of the doubt and be like in good faith, like life has taken them in a different direction for now. But hey, I mean, if we meet up again, I will remember the things that I liked about this person,
You
and
could just say me.
I'd
We're
be very
talking about me now. All the
curious.
things you liked about me, right?
But all y'all, yeah,
All
yes, you
y'all. Okay.
included, sure. So yeah,
All
you
right.
fill me in. What have you been doing? Catch me up.
I'll fill you in. All right. I didn't say anything. Sorry. I try. I have really tried not to be inappropriate. Like I don't know if you've noticed, but like my inappropriate level has dropped dramatically. But you can't fucking softball them in like that.
No jokes. No jokes allowed.
No jokes. Okay, sorry. I always forget with you. You know, I started following you on Twitter probably 2015, 2016 because I was still very political at that point in time. But I always
Wow.
lurked. I remember once we started talking a little more, you were like, "I don't even understand. How long have you been following me?" But I've been following you for quite a while. And then I think one time hilariously, it seemed like you were drunk tweeting one night. And this was like a few years after I started following you, and
What?
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna slide into her DMs, and I did, and then our friendship flowered from there. Um, had some
Yeah,
rough patches here
you
and there.
said why don't you be on a podcast? And I said I would never.
Some shit like that. I don't know. I believe this was like during the beginning of your roller skating phase. You like
Okay.
really decided to you went off on quite a tangent regarding roller skates. Like it was like a 6 or 7 hour one, if I'm remembering correctly. And I was like, dude, this lady's really into roller skates. But anyway, so
You
like
remember? I probably deleted the tweets the
you
next
did.
day.
You
I'm like,
did.
oh,
You
cringe.
didn't even respond to me until the next morning, and by the time you did respond to me, I noticed all the tweets were gone. I remember that. But yeah, like and we've been talking ever since. And of course, you're a wonderful friend of mine. And one of the things, like as I've kind of pulled away, like I don't think I have pulled away politically. I'm still very engaged in politics, but it's like my own, like just for my own thirst for knowledge. Like I love reading the
Yeah.
news. I read a lot. I read a lot of news articles every day. But I think, and I don't know. I don't want to speak for you. It seems like you've slowed down. I don't know if maybe you just lighten up after an election or whatnot. But like I don't engage anymore. I just don't fucking like engaging on Twitter. I don't like fucking getting drunk and firing off a bunch of political shit that I gotta fucking delete the next day, and it got a little tiring for me. But there's some interesting stuff going on in politics, and every episode is a little different for me. But if I'm ever going to discuss politics, there's only a few people that I really would discuss with it, and that's people that are like respectful and kind of think like I do, because I'm a coward and I don't want to debate anybody. But
I
yeah,
mean, I know what you mean. I don't engage in politics before like my political views. My views on life in general are always evolving. And I look back on my tweets and opinions of a few years ago, and I think like I was how adamant I was about certain issues. Now I just look back and it's like so cringe because they were way more nuanced than the shit that I was spitting out on Twitter.
yeah,
But nowadays, I just try to be as calm and detached and objective about it as possible.
mm-hmm,
And that can be tricky, but like the main thing is I don't let it, even when I pay attention, I don't let it become the focus of my life. Like I just try to just focus on other hobbies, other like people, like my family, you know, shit like roller skating and gardening and playing the ukulele. That's way more important. And when I do engage on Twitter, I like engaging on like the most mundane shit. Like some of the people in my Twitter circle, they'll just tweet about like what they had for lunch. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a self-conscious way of tweeting where like you know you could be tweeting harder than that,
Yeah.
but you just tweet something like just took my dog for a walk, and then everyone's like yay, because
I
I
see
think
your
like
tweets like that, and I'm always like, what the fuck is going on? And you get like 30 likes. You're like, just had a sandwich or some shit like that.
it's like those tweets will get me better engagement than if I say like Thomas Jefferson was the best founding father for these particular reasons. A, he was a copywriter and a journalist. B, you know what I mean? Like if I say like
It almost seems masturbatory, those kind of things, because it's like it's not even
yeah,
like you're
it
trying
was.
to it's not even like you're trying to convert people or have an honest conversation. It's more like, look how smart I am. Aren't I smart? Please tell me I'm smart. Look at all this information. I'm so smart. And I remember back in the day doing that kind of shit, and it was just
But
like,
it
what?
works for some people. Like
Yeah.
you see like a bunch of certain Twitter people who they gain success through that, and yeah, they're not even cute girls. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I don't get it either.
But it did never work for me. Like I didn't have that same
Hey,
sort of
you got
charisma.
me.
So
I don't even remember what it was because you've been on private for a minute, right? How long you been on private?
yeah, yeah, several years now.
So I mean,
Unfortunately, I would love to go public,
uh huh.
but and even though I don't say a whole lot of controversial things, I
Mm-hmm.
follow people. I follow a variety of people. Like I don't care if they say controversial things
Yeah.
because I want to know what's out there. I
Right.
want to know what people are thinking and saying and get a true picture of the political landscape.
You must have been on
So
public when I started following you though, because I wouldn't. I mean,
yeah,
I guess if I'm remembering correctly, you were like, your profile was some shit like libertarian in Southern California, and then it was like, cute DP. I was like, oh my god, look at this. This is a, this is a pot of
a
gold.
Fed.
Well, it's a pot of gold or a
You
Fed,
thought
yeah.
you
No,
thought
I
it was
was
a Fed,
like,
yeah.
no, it's just because
Many
I mean,
such cases.
you know how it is down there, like, and I'm not going to like Liberty on the Rocks. I'm not going to any meetings. I am not an activist in any way, shape, or form. Like I do my activism, I do it in the voting booth. Like I'm over like internet arguing. It's so fucking silly. But
I think your activism is similar to mine, and it's like living your life the
yeah,
way you feel it should be lived. Like judging for yourself, like what policies and laws are just and fair to yourself, and also like the laws of like not the laws, like the rules of society that make sense for you,
yeah,
and choosing what to adhere to, what to obey, you know,
yeah. No, that's a good point. So I guess I
right,
am.
Penny?
Yeah, yeah. How
This
is
is my categories. Come here.
I had to put my dog out in
Come
the
here, Penny.
backyard. How is Penny? How old is Penny?
She's like 10 or 12 or something. She's getting up there.
Do you hide her? I always used to hear rumors about black cats on Halloween. Do you hide her like around Halloween?
Yes, around Halloween, I will not allow her out after dark. And
Yeah,
she's typically an indoor cat, but occasionally likes to go outside for a second, chew on grass or whatever.
yeah,
Um, and then sometimes what I'll do is I'll leave the window open for her, so
mm-hmm.
she can jump back in on her own. But yeah, when it comes to Halloween time, it's very important to watch your cats in general and watch your black cats, because there are some really really awful people out
Yeah,
there who use dark magic in the wrong way, and
in the
yeah,
wrong way. Please don't ever use dark magic at me at all in any way,
in the
shape, or
right
form.
way.
No,
Not
I
in
just
the
don't.
right
No
way.
dark magic. I don't know. There's probably God only knows. There's probably girls going to Hot Topic buying voodoo dolls and fucking with me, and I am not comfortable with it. Of course, when we talk about the cat, we're talking about There's rumors of like satanic cults, and it could be, hot topic shit. It could be legit shit. And I remember in the 80s,
Yeah.
there was a lot of concern, and then it almost turned into like, oh, it was overblown hype. But then I just watched Sons of Sam on Netflix. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
It's about like you're familiar with the Son of Sam, mass
Not
murderer.
really. No.
Well, so it was like this fucking crazy guy, and the story was that like he was going crazy, and the neighbor's dog told him to kill a bunch of people in New York. It was in the
Oh.
70s, and then but then it turned out later that there was like a link to a satanic cult, and it wasn't just him. And he said later on, after he was convicted and all this, he was like, "Yeah, it was a satanic cult." And it's weird how we went from like 80s overblown satanic cults are everywhere to like 90s like, oh, that was just, they were just ridiculous. And now like more evidence is coming up like, no, these are like legit like things that you might want to, be concerned about. Satanists, whether or not that is like a legitimate, like whether or not it's like such a big force in our life that we have to be concerned about it, it's legitimate, and that's kind of creepy. The documentaries, it's fascinating if you're into documentaries and stuff like that and murder, but you're like more lighthearted, and you're a good Catholic girl. So I don't think, I feel like you're so, I don't want to say far into it, but your faith is so strong that you actively try to not put that in your reality, right? You're just like, there's no reason for me to even like watch something like this, I feel.
Well, gosh, I got a few things to say about that. So, yes, as a Catholic, I do believe that magic is real, but also that you shouldn't fuck with it. And you don't need to fuck with it. Because if you
Yeah.
live a good life,
Uh-huh.
then things will turn out well for you. And, well, even if it doesn't, well, you could always be a saint
Mm.
and, like give up your life for God or whatever. Like, just have faith. Have faith that things are cool.
Yeah.
Um, Regarding Hot Topic and that whole scare in the 80s, which I think will always be a concern for parents. I personally would never go to Hot Topic and buy like a black t-shirt with a pentagram on it just to
Right.
look cool and edgy. Even
Yeah.
though I think 90% of that stuff, probably all of it is just trying to be edgy, trying to be different, trying to be rebellious and whatever. Just kind of like how punk rockers in the 70s in England, they would wear like Nazi symbols
Right.
because that was the ultimate way to be edgy.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny. It's funny because I see that a lot. Now I remember, in junior high and high school, I was a punk and like had piercings and fucking, wore all the fucking raggedy clothes and shit. But now it's like,
yeah.
and I've got some friends that like can't move on from that. And like you see people like can't move on from like being a hippie. Like it's almost like sad really. Cause it's like they're so desperate to have a personality and they can't have one like innately that they do all this shit and wear this ridiculous shit as a it almost feels like a substitute for a
Oh,
personality. It's like there's a time and place for that in your youth, but it's like, you get to a point in time where it's like, okay, how about instead of being a punk or a goth, you just be an adult and like, just do adult shit. You don't need
yeah.
to fucking, you don't need to pretend like you have a personality this late into adulthood.
Interesting. So I do think that older people should have more flexibility. I think everyone should have more flexibility on like what they're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it would be. Can you like what are like some specific examples where it goes like beyond? Because like okay, like somebody like in their 50s having a tattoo, or or like wearing a choker, is that going too far? And like, or do you want to talk about like like where it goes too far? Somebody in their
I mean,
40s wearing a
if I'm
tie-dye.
uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, I think it's gone too far. But I'm very self-absorbed, so who knows? I could be
Well,
talking
you're
out of
also
my ass.
you're not exactly like a right-wing evangelical who
No.
goes to, who wears a suit and tie to church every Sunday. And yeah, so I would consider you aesthetically, you're sort of liberal. You must be very liberal. You have the California flag behind you hung upside down.
Yeah,
That's pretty
I'm
edgy.
just a fucking hypocrite. No, you're right. I mean,
That's pretty edgy.
I guess I'm just
That's
measuring them
you must
against
be.
me. You know, like I dress up nice. You know, I clean up nice. You know, you've
Mhm.
never seen me in a suit when I'm fucking, working with a client. You just see me in my normal, dress down, shitty tattoos,
I seen you
fucking.
wearing a trucker cap that says wine her dine her 69er.
Wine 'em, it's not, it's gender fluid. It says wine 'em, dine 'em, 69 'em. Yeah, no, and I mean,
Apologies. Yes, I
and I
you
mean, that's really the
have
point,
that
right?
flexibility. Go
Yeah,
for
and
it.
that's really the point, right? People don't understand nuance. I mean, and I'm not talking about you specifically, but there was a point in time on my stream where I was like, let's just fucking get in all the trolls. And I would wear that hat. Like I would be, I was, it happened a few times. I was mortified when I like turned off my stream after wearing my Wine 'em Dine 'em 69 'em hat. And then I would like go out to a restaurant and eat and forget that I had it on. And I would just be like I'd be like sitting at the bar and getting all sorts of weird looks, like what the fuck? And then I realized I still had it on. So I mean, it was more for show. It was more for the like the Mr. Pariah character than
It's not
myself.
that bad. I mean, if I were to see somebody like besides like random person
Yeah,
besides you, which I have seen, I would just think it's very like there's a person with a very silly Beavis and Butthead sense of humor,
yeah.
and like move on with
I've
my
always
day.
liked the phrase. I think it's probably one of the more hilarious phrases in the English lexicon. And there are just some women out
True
there
poetry.
who are just completely disgusted by it. And I mean, it's the same way a reason I'd wear the MAGA hat. You know, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing a MAGA hat. I was living in Southern California. I never wore that hat ever outside. Um, it
You
was
have a
just
MAGA hat?
yeah, there's a couple of clips on Twitch where I'm like wearing it and shit. It was just so people would come in and be like, "You're a piece of shit." You know, there was like a nuanced
I
method to
can
my
no longer
madness.
associate with you.
I know. Look, it's a curse. But I mean, it's just
Even I didn't buy a MAGA hat.
well, I didn't buy it because I was a Trump supporter. I bought it because I thought it was hilarious that people got pissed off at a hat. It's just
You could have gotten your
hilarious.
ass kicked though. You weren't afraid of getting your ass kicked?
I never wore it outside.
Okay.
And you know, like I've met very few people from Twitch in real life. And there was one time I went to New York. I did an IRL stream in New York with
Oh, cool.
and this guy who was big in my stream, Enter the Vroom, and I brought the MAGA hat. I didn't wear it,
Vroom. I
and
remember Vroom.
yeah, and we went to Trump Tower, and I made him wear it, and I took a picture of him. So I mean,
Nice.
yeah, you know, like nuanced comedy is big with me, and that kind of stuff is it's always good. I just like I said, I thought it was funny that a hat pissed people off.
Oh,
But
it's the equivalent of saying the N word. I mean, people have the right to kick your ass. You know
yeah,
that, right?
yeah, I
It's,
know. I mean,
it
I
is
don't agree with
legally
it.
defensible to kick your ass if you are wearing a MAGA hat. Just the same as
ridiculous.
it is like legally defensible to kick your ass if you say the N word.
Yeah,
This is not protected speech.
interesting. Yeah, we're going. This fucking country sucks. I don't. It's so ridiculous. Like I'm not
They're a
gonna
better
sit here
country,
and
though.
defend the N word,
It's a better
but
country, though.
no, they all suck. I'm not even saying that it's our. I mean, our Western society as a whole seems to be taking a big hit. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I hope we're pulling ourselves out of it. I've said this before. I like the fact that Biden doesn't create as much chaos and it doesn't seem like he's dividing so hard, which I think may be beneficial.
Yeah, but
But
you know
he's
who
not a
has a problem with
uniter.
that?
Why? What's that?
I'm sorry. You know who has a problem with that is the media. They
Mhm.
miss him because
Oh
he
yeah,
was big time clickbait.
yeah,
Like they even try to like raise him from the dead. They like try to exhume the corpse of his presidency
how
sometimes
so?
and be like, oh, they mentioned this with the recent Israel uh flare up.
Hmm.
The Israel
Palestine.
Palestine controversy, which is which has been going on for ages. But there was a recent flare up, and they like there was a headline that said something along the lines of Trump has this is like part of a result of President Trump's policy, something like that. And it was just like a weird, like I saw somebody tweet about it
Mm-hmm.
to show just the headline itself and frame it like how it was, show how it was framed in that this is somehow President Trump still living on. And I know we can still call them president,
Yeah.
but when Trump was president, everyone just referred to him as Trump, not President Trump. But
Yeah.
now it's like they're still acting like that headline still made it seem like everyone's acting like he's still the president, and therefore we can still gain the clickbait because the country is still a disaster due to the fact that he is still president. Like, it's weird. Does that
It
make
is
sense?
weird. Yeah, no, it does make sense. And I notice exactly what you're talking about. I hear him brought up, and it's almost, and you can like see it when he's brought up, like, oh man, fucking, you guys are really desperate for clicks. But it's like Biden, he's such a corpse. He's so ineffective. Like there's no real news. Like the big news with Biden now is, did he have someone driving that electric truck for him? Did you see that? That's the big one today.
No, I didn't. What
It's
happened
not
with that?
real. It's not real. Like he drove the Ford Lightning, the new Ford truck, and they're trying to say the positioning
What
of the
is
secret.
it? An electric car or something?
It's an electric truck. It's gonna like rival the Musk's Cybertruck, but it just looks like a regular truck. It doesn't look like radical. But they're
And
like,
it runs on carbon fueled energy.
yeah, they all do. But I mean, the batteries, you know what I'm talking about. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But they're like showing the placement of the Secret Service guy's hand on the dash as proof that he was actually steering the wheel. And it's just like, this is stupid. Like these news cycles suck now. Trump like was good for the news. And I mean, he called it. He called how the ratings were going to drop when he left, for better or for worse. And
he was funny. He was
he
fucking
was so funny, so fucking hilarious, and he got people so upset.
Can you? Yeah, like even some socialists will admit that. Like, do you listen to the Red Scare podcast ever?
I've heard it a few times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You might be interested in it. Their economic positions might anger you, but if you could just set that aside and be like who cares, whatever. They're just too.
See, we're better at that. We're better at that. We're better at looking past certain aspects to enjoy things as a whole, as opposed to the other side who is just like.
I think so too, though they happen to be the exceptions where they can appreciate the occasional conservative, such as like Steve Bannon and Donald Trump, and even who's that orgy guy? You know, the orgy guy who liked to dress in costumes, and he was.
Roger Stone?
Yes, Roger Stone.
I don't think he was an orgy guy. I think he was a cuck. I think he liked to get guys over to fuck his wife in front of him, and then he'd jack off.
He's a swinger.
Yeah, swinger. Yeah.
No, I think
orgy
he did
guy.
Orgy
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Like
That's
he was
fine.
gross. And
Don't be
funny.
so judgmental.
And he dressed funny. And
He dressed like a fucking Batman villain. It's hilarious.
I know. Like, I don't want him near me, but I guess I'm glad that he exists for like some comic relief.
Yeah, he makes things interesting. That's for sure.
So as like a right winger, it's interesting to see these characters. That was never a huge fan of him, but they love Steve Bannon. For some reason, they just love Steve Bannon. They love the fact like he's like big and fat, and he's like into certain clothing, like certain type of old school conservative preppy clothing where you'd wear like multiple shirts with like a lot of collars. I don't know, like, and they call him daddy, and it's just so weird.
That's funny.
It's kind of interesting that it's nice to know that these people exist, because they can't be the only ones. There are a couple of liberal socialist chicks who happen to be making tens of thousands of dollars on every single fucking podcast. Yeah, they make bank.
Yeah,
they make bank crazily. Even though their podcasts are just like kind of like lazy, like they talk like in a languid voice, and sometimes they're on drugs, they're on like edibles, or they're drinking or whatever. But they'll be saying shit like Trump is funny, and we love Barron, and Melania is so hot.
Interesting. I mean?
Yeah. And
but they're not adding anything. They're just kind of You're talking about the
Well, in
ones.
other areas, in like so like in their cultural commentary,
Mm-hmm.
you might gain some insights because you might not be watching the same movies that they watch, and so like in that way, they might talk about like Brie Larson playing what was it, Captain America or whatever.
Brie
Remember
Larson
Brie Larson?
played Captain Marvel, not Captain America.
Captain Marvel, and she got paid
Wait,
like
was it Captain Marvel? Is it?
she
It's something Marvel. It was the worst one that I saw. I hated that movie.
and she made millions of dollars.
Oh, dude, all she did, like her whole going up to the release of the movie, the SJW messaging throughout the entirety of like the campaign to get people to see this movie, like it turned
Yeah,
me off so bad. It's like, can I just fucking enjoy? Like I've got to live with this. Every other part of my life is like has to fucking. I've got to listen to everybody lecturing
I
and shit.
know.
Like,
Yeah. So they get that. So they get that. They're kind of like the El Chapo trap house people, I guess, the dirtbag left type of people.
mm-hmm,
But it is kind of like heartening to know that those people exist.
mm-hmm,
People that maybe they would have been punk rockers in our generation. They listen to like edgy music and whatever.
mm-hmm,
Economically, they went one way and we went another,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Um, but there's definitely some common ground aesthetically. Aesthetically, yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
Got it.
Is yeah, because like I said, like they're not the only two people who like the fact that they've got tens of thousands of followers. And I was actually introduced by that podcast by somebody on the far right.
I
On the
think
far
I
right.
think is one of her names like Anna. It's like an Armenian name.
Kachin.
Yeah, is she
Yeah,
one of them?
she's half Armenian
Yeah,
and half Jewish.
she was on Tim Dillon's podcast I think a few months back too. So I mean I
Mm-hmm.
get what you're saying. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean that kind of overlap is good. That is the fabric of our society. Like being able to have differences of opinion, but like still not just immediately dismiss somebody on the other side is is so is so a part of our basic fabric that like we really should be not steering toward one way or another, but getting along to a point where we can make, general progress that everybody isn't necessarily happy with, but isn't completely disgusted with too. When we have,
I think we'll have to do that by forming like separate states.
how so?
So like if Anna and Dasha, move to the south maybe.
Uh huh.
Move to Texas with you.
Uh huh.
Then you can form some sort of governance. But like throughout the entire United States, there are just too many differences,
Yeah.
and it's too crazy. I don't know, man. But anyway, oh, a thought just came to my head. You
Tell me your
earlier
thought.
mentioned that maybe we might want to talk about the Gavin Newsom recall election,
Yes.
or there are a couple other things you mentioned.
Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh yes, did you watch that video clip
I
that I
did.
sent you?
Yeah, I like Caitlyn Jenner. I'm assuming you don't.
Sure. No, I've I've always liked um Jenner. I've always liked Jenner. And I've grown up with Jenner, like as knowing Jenner as a public figure, as an
Mm-hmm.
athlete, and
Mm-hmm.
as a business person.
Mm-hmm.
And now she has come to her form in which she is most comfortable as a woman, and now she's aiming to be a politician. So, and she is on the Republican side, which I find very interesting. I tend to have a lot more in common economically with Republicans than I do with Democrats. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been paying attention. You've been paying attention too,
Yeah.
right? And then so of course I was interested. I saw her campaign ad, which was nicely done. It was emotional. It hit on some good points, and that was cool about how like California's economic policies are bringing down California's economy, and so, but then I did watch that episode in which Sean Hannity interviewed her, and I was less than impressed. I feel like if she wants to actually mobilize our population, then she needs to get her energy up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but go off, King. What do you got to say?
I mean, I just think, from a principles standpoint, in terms of what she wants to do with the country economically, kind of the ideas that she has with immigration as a whole, the homelessness situation, the Democrats basically holding power over the entire state for over 40 years. Like, these are all things that concerned me for quite some time, ever since I really started getting involved in politics, in particular conservatism. So, I mean, she checks off all the boxes in terms of who I would vote for governor. The trans thing doesn't bother me at all. I could give a shit either way. But I understand that kind of adds to this circus aspect of a recall. Of course, we both remember the Schwarzenegger Gray Davis recall.
I do remember that, yeah.
Which was a fucking circus in and of itself, right? But I mean,
I didn't like them calling it a circus. Honestly,
well, I mean, you got fucking.
I was like a junior journalist, and I wrote about it, and everyone was calling it a circus, and so I was trying to be like my own little, crazy little.
You're journalist
reporter.
Major, right?
Yeah, and it was while I was in college, and I was like, can we not mention? Can we report about this while not mentioning the term circus?
It's kind of a circus, though. I mean, Larry Flynt ran. There was one or more than.
Larry Flynt was a proponent of freedom of speech, and maybe there's something to that. Like, maybe we owe Larry Flynt a thing or two.
I love fucking Larry Flynt. R.I.P. to Larry Flynt. I love that guy. I don't know if you ever.
There's different things to talk. That's a complex situation too.
But I mean, it was ridiculous.
That doesn't make him like a circus animal. Like like morally, we could talk about his situation where like he did a bunch of wrong. Oh my gosh, there's a lot to go into about
I mean, that. Look, I love Larry Flynt. Also, I can accept the fact that he's like a creepy fucking pornographer that's bound to a wheelchair. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm trying not to judge, but. If you're gonna describe a circus animal type person, I mean that in like the adult film stars delegitimize,
discredit our future governor Schwarzenegger, because he happened to be a celebrity, but on the non-Democrat side. Right. He's actually fairly liberal. He's a
California conservative.
Yeah, which is pretty liberal. What was he? He's Catholic, and he's he's had a degenerate past, right? Like there's just so much we could say about that, but I think at the time, as like a burgeoning wannabe journalist, I wanted to go up against the grain and be like, come on, man, can we talk about this in a different way than saying it's just a fucking circus? Like every fucking person, there was like a herd mentality. That was another thing. It's just like journalists just act like a herd. And even if like, okay, the first or second time somebody says circus, like, oh, that's funny. But like the 30th time you hear it, it's like, come the fuck on. You know what I mean? Like it's like when you see the same meme a zillion times, it's like, can you come up with some new material? Yeah. That's why I react.
I mean, I followed it. I think it's less of a circus this time. If we're gonna still call it a circus, I don't want to offend you. I don't want to trigger you. Seems like circus is a bit triggering for you. But I he's I mean it's obvious the fact that he's transgendered or she's transgendered is going to be a major part of it, and it would, on one hand, fuck, dude, how else can we get a California governor as a Republican right now? I can't think of any. Like, you're not going to get McClintock. In the last recall, I voted for the recall and for McClintock. And McClintock still would be a fucking great governor, but he just doesn't have. He's just fucking too normal. He doesn't get the clicks. I don't see how
what
else.
If it were somebody like, remember Schwarzenegger's son-in-law, that dude who married his daughter?
Chris Pratt.
Yes, Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
He's cute.
He could do it. Yeah, Chris Pratt could do it. I don't think Chris Pratt wants to do it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, like, you got to think, I got to have a hard enough time making it in Hollywood as a conservative now. Like, every single thing that he said or done, there's going to be women saying she groped me, and like all this shit they're going to have to go through just to be a public servant. I don't think he would ever run. But I think Caitlyn Jenner's sort of at the end of her life. I don't think she's dying anytime soon, but she's not going to be in sports. She's not going to be in reality TV. She obviously cares enough about politics and cares enough. What are you doing? You're just walking back and forth. Can you even hear me? Am I babbling to myself now? Hello? Can you hear me?
No, I'm listening. I'm just getting a cigarette.
Oh, okay. I know. I thought I was being ignored. I'm sorry. I'm
listening. No, I'm listening.
And I think that she would be good. I think that it would not be an easy job for her, but I think out of everybody that has a chance, she's got the best one.
But did you watch that interview clip I sent you?
I did, yeah. I didn't think it was that bad. It was a little bit, the Hanger, not great optics, and when we talk about income inequality. But I thought it was decent. I thought she made a good case. But she needs to get more.
A bunch of energy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I felt
old.
Like she's old, and not everybody can be like Donald Trump. Maybe she should start shoving more fucking McDonald's down her gullet. I don't know how the fuck that guy has so much. Or Adderall, right? Probably
I was gonna say cocaine, but Adderall is a good choice too.
Adderall's probably better than the cocaine because it's long lasting. Cocaine, you have to do frequent trips back to the bathroom. Right?
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. What does Trump do? Does he do both?
Trump's probably on Adderall or Vyvanse. I don't think he's on coke. I think that's a little ridiculous. What's that?
Anymore? I heard he used to do coke in the 80s, like all those business guys, like all those.
I could see that, but I haven't heard that myself. But I could see that. But I know he's a fucking he's a teetotaler. Like, he doesn't drink at all because of his brother.
He doesn't drink, but I don't think he's judgmental about that. Like, I think he just doesn't drink because it didn't work out for his brother, right? And he's afraid of it for himself, right? So, yeah, so that. So, I mean, which is
a really an admirable, admirable self-reflection, because there's a lot of people in addictive families where they still go down that path, and like I don't think he gets really a lot of credit.
Even at certain state dinners or whatever, like when he'd go to foreign countries and he'd be served a glass of wine, he would take a sip and toast and whatever. But for the most part, he would just drink his Diet Coke or whatever.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know he sipped. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess not a total teetotaler then.
Ceremoniously.
Got it.
I think a couple of times, like at foreign dinners, when they accidentally served him the same wine as everyone else. I think he ceremoniously took a sip, and then the media would make a big deal about it, and
of course,
big deal about everything. But where was I going with this?
Jenner, stay on target here.
Jenner,
yeah.
So it's more like her energy was on that Hannity interview with her. So in that particular clip that I sent you, he pretty much left it open-ended at the beginning, and then she kind of went on like this boring little rant about, you know, her father and her grandparents and how they did whatever in their lives. And then Hannity, to his credit, he's a good interviewer. He tried to guide her back into like the specifics. He's like, okay, well, tell me about the specifics. And then she said something like, oh, well, you know, Newsom is a hypocrite. He dined at that restaurant, just like Nancy Pelosi went to that hairstylist, and Newsom is taking money, you know, like pay for play type stuff, which every politician does. And so he's a typical politician, and he just rambled a little bit more and didn't really get to the specific, like, as opposed to somebody like a Tulsi Gabbard who was just like ready, like with all the facts on hand, like, or like a very ready politician is going to be ready with a lot of facts and statistics and specific things that their opponent has said. And she did not do that.
It may have been a bit of a wasted opportunity, but I also saw it as like an introduction to me, because I think a lot of people have this idea of who Caitlyn Jenner is and their story just based off of reality television. So I think one of the big things that I saw in that interview was her trying to separate herself from all of that. And like, this is who I am. This is my family that I've come from. You know, she didn't have that much time. She probably could have played it a little better in terms of how she dealt with issue specifics. But I think that this is a part of the long political game in terms of like introducing themselves before delving into the details. I think that you're right, though. She probably could have made better use of the time. But I think a big concern of hers is just being dismissed as like the transgendered mom from the Kardashians, where she's trying to say, look, I'm a professional. You know, here is my background. And here are the things that are wrong. And I think everything she mentioned that was wrong resonated with people. A lot of people are still pissed off about the French Laundry incident. A lot of people are still pissed off about Pelosi. Yep. So hitting these easy buttons, these are like layups for her, right? She's got a long way to go. But by grabbing the things that the conservative movement is already really pissed off about, and like any political movement or a large base of people, if you can cast these broad strokes, initially, at least, I think that you're going to start to see a movement. She doesn't have a lot of support right now, where she's polling at like 6% the last Gallup poll. It might be improved. It might not be. But I think that she is better served by hitting those broad strokes at first and then diving in to the finer details when she's got more attention.
Yes. I agree with that. Those are good points. I just wish she were better prepared and on Adderall or whatever.
Yeah.
And she also, in other questions, I don't know if you saw any of the other segments of that interview. That interview was actually like, I don't know, 45 minutes long. It was like an hour long or something.
I didn't see the whole thing, but I read a bunch of articles on it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so you know what she's so apparently maybe she rolled back on certain positions. She's a little wishy-washy on immigration, which is a hot topic among conservative Republicans, right? Like she talked about Hannity asked her specifically, like, would you work with ICE on incarcerated criminals who are illegal? And then she said something like, I will, but it will be very difficult, which made me think like, what is she going to roll back? Like, is she going to not deport criminals? I don't know. Like, that's an interesting topic too. I would like to know, I think all voters would like to know how she would deal with incarcerated criminals, on how like if ICE were to step in.
Yeah,
but people on both sides want to know.
Going back to the Gray Davis recall with Schwarzenegger, it may be that she's trying to make a Schwarzenegger move. If you remember that, he barely had to do anything, and she's not going to get away with that. He didn't have to take strong positions. It was just because he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I think that maybe she's trying to kind of tiptoe around more of these sensitive issues, but there's no way in hell she's going to get elected unless she takes strong points on these. And it's difficult because California in general has a much lower conservative base than some of these, some of these more purple states. So she can't just take
in the urban areas for sure.
Well, she
But
can't.
we still have a big conservative Republicans still have a large part, like the Central Valley, for instance.
Yeah, but the population in general in those compared to the urban areas is dramatically less. In these agricultural areas like along the Grapevine and shit. Sure, that's very red, but the population per capita is going to be much lower, right? So, I mean, she's got to tiptoe around a lot of these issues. She can't do it as a straight Republican, and she can't count on her name like Schwarzenegger could. She's got to appeal to centrists, and you know what she has to appeal to is progressive social progressives that don't necessarily care so much about the politics but are going to vote for her simply because she's trans. If she comes out this fucking gate saying we're going to fucking deport all these Mexicans, then of course she's like cut these people that she's trying to appeal to right out from day one, right? So I think you're going to see a much different type of Republican race with someone like Caitlyn Jenner than you would with like a standard McClintock run.
Yes, I just think she would do better if she had more charm, the way like Arnold Schwarzenegger has charm. Like,
she's still learning. She's new.
Big.
She's new in the, I mean, right? I don't know. Like I can't say I can't even crack jokes. I don't know. But like she's not a charming person. She's a winner. The trans thing like
She's done well.
hurts and helps her at the same time. It's going to be an interesting race because the people that she has to appeal to are such a broad base and like fit in so many different categories. I don't think she's running a stupid campaign. I think we're seeing a campaign the likes of which we have never seen before and who she's appealing to. I'm seriously. Yeah, I love the campaign ad.
The campaign ad seemed to work well for her. I think they brought out her appeal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if she's gonna want to move upward, then she's gonna have to boost her charm appeal and be ready with a lot more of the facts that can appear more broadly, such as like the lockdowns, like the fact that she mentions like a bunch of businesses have already moved out of California because of the lockdown rules, and it's made it so difficult to be in business, and people being unemployed and whatnot due to lockdowns.
Yeah.
And the science behind lockdowns, which is questionable because it's not been fully proven. There's a lot of a backlash I've heard against like, do lockdowns actually work to prevent deaths in general, and also like COVID related deaths specifically. So if she's not ready for that, then I just think it's going to be she's going to go down in flames.
She's got to take so you're saying she has to take a like a more hardline conservative standing in terms of like the COVID related like limitations. Like
I wouldn't even call it
like
conservative.
Florida, or she should take more like a DeSantis.
I think that there are plenty of people on every part of the political spectrum who question lockdowns because if you're, for instance, a service worker who lost your job, like say like you were a waitress or a hairstylist or whatever, and you just suddenly lost your job, like even though you were willing to be safe like even if you're somebody who's like willing to be like, okay, I'll wear a mask if I can do your hair. There was a while in California where you were not allowed to do that at all. You were
Right.
not allowed to be a a server in a restaurant, even wearing a mask, and otherwise abiding, by those rules where, like, they take your temperature, and they make sure you don't have symptoms and whatnot. And and people, even being aware of the risks, weren't allowed to go into restaurants. And I'm not a COVID denier, like, by far. Like,
I know you.
I was wearing an N95 mask
You went
way
mask crazy. You were fucking flexing with all sorts of different masks and selfies and shit. I remember.
I think it was like back in like January, February, late January. Like, as soon as I heard about these, um about what was going on in China, I was like, I gotta protect, um not just myself, but more like my elderly parents who I take
Right.
care of. I want to protect them from these things. And I'm influenced by different people. Like, I'm influenced. I think a lot of us were influenced by, like, both these non-conservative, like, tech bros
Mm-hmm.
who like read Malcolm Gladwell, who,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you read The Tipping Point, which talked about the possibility of, like, back then the concern was like swine flu or bird flu. It was bird flu. Um, we were concerned about that, and also I read musings from people who are like prepper types, who are like disaster preparedness survivalist types,
Mm-hmm.
who also consider the possibility of pandemics as being one of the possible, when the shit hit the fan situation type people. So we're like, we got to be prepared for that too. So when I started hearing about that, I'm like, I think I should start wearing an N95 mask, even if it makes me look a little bit ridiculous. I don't, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
But at that point, N95 masks were getting really expensive really quick.
Yeah.
And so I bought some overpriced N95 masks, and I saw what was happening there.
I bought a
Um,
lot of spam.
of what?
Spam. Because I read that it was high in protein. I hoarded food. I didn't do the
Mm.
toilet paper, but I hoarded food. You hoarded masks.
I ordered masks, and also a few other things like Lysol wipes and
Yeah.
stuff. Um, I try to stay ahead of that, and I try to stay ahead of definitely toilet paper, and but just basically keeping, like, sanitary and clean at that point. And I didn't think, yeah. So I guess the point is, like, I'm not a COVID denier.
Right.
That's not the thing. Like, I think we should all be careful about that. And
And
I
it's fucked up though, right? Because you're known as a conservative, so then you have to make this huge case about why you're not a COVID denier because of the automatic association with your political affiliation with how you treated coronavirus.
there are different types of people on our side of the political spectrum. I don't consider myself a conservative, though I have some commonalities, especially economically.
Mm-hmm.
I I don't consider myself. I don't think conservatives would consider me conservative either.
Yeah, I'm the
Uh,
same way. I'm like a centrist now, but I refuse to have any labels. You know how I feel about all these party labels and shit. Like I think it's
yeah, I
all
don't.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not into that either. It's just the point. What's the point that I was trying to make? It just, yeah, we definitely needed to be careful, but also I never quite knew if I was always like a skeptic of lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was pretty happy when my organization started letting us work from home, because at that point in time, if we're not being required to wear masks to work, like N95 masks to work,
Yeah.
and we don't know what's going on with this particular virus.
Hmm.
And like, I also want to take care of my elderly parents and make sure that they're safe. I'm like happy about that. But this other thing where like, um, you can't get a haircut even if you're a young person who is otherwise healthy and fit, like, mm, that's where I'm kind of, I guess I'm kind of libertarian, where I'm just like, maybe people should be allowed to make that choice.
Make their choice.
But we should
Yeah.
still be very careful about like nursing homes, um, and people who are immunocompromised, and anyone who interacts with them.
Yeah.
That's where I've always been. So that's where I think back to the California Governor Newsom recall thing. I see how those people have a point in saying that he went like so broad with his lockdowns and for so long, um, where and like the science is so confusing about that. And he wasn't even like it wasn't even like the California government wasn't compensating these people
Yeah.
for
He
making
was
them go
fucked.
unemployed right
Yeah.
away. It was very difficult for these people to suddenly gain unemployment benefits
Right.
because some of these people were just like they're independent. Um, they just weren't part of that unemployment system as
They were
opposed
part
to
of the
like
gig. They were part of the gig economy that was then getting affected.
that too, yeah, as opposed to like if you're working for a corporation where you're paying into the unemployment insurance situation, you get like, it's easier for you to get into unemployment, but all of a sudden you had a bunch of um, new people into that system. They had to adjust for that, and it took a long time, and they weren't doing much about that, so it was just kind of like they were screwing these people over. This is not a partisan thing. Like,
Yeah.
people of every political affiliation, or with different political opinions, or maybe apolitical people who just wanted to work, and they weren't allowed to work anymore, but they also weren't being compensated to not go to work, so
Fucked.
they were just fucked. They're just fucked into poverty, fucked into unemployment, and without any recourse, and like suddenly they couldn't pay their rent,
Hmm.
shit like that. Like, that's where the problem lies. If they were like, why didn't Newsom have a plan for that? Like, with such a drastic reduction in people's employment, and not have any recourse for them. Like, that's where the problem lied. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's I mean, it's we're at the tail end of it now, but hopefully
It's
now they're
gotten
saying if
better.
you're vaccinated, now you got to get another booster shot in the fucking fall. I'm so tired of this fucking thing. Look, we got too many goddamn people anyway. Let's just walk out, no mask. I'm just over it, you know. Um,
Is that
but
why you're moving to Texas?
yeah, I'm moving a couple more weeks and I'm on my way. I'm already packing up and shit. This is like my not packed room, but everything else is pretty much starting to get packed up. Probably gonna have somebody come over this weekend and pack some boxes for me because I just can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just that, and I just this it's been a blessing in disguise because like on one hand, like it's definitely made me slightly crazier, and I definitely did
Everyone.
I engaged in very dangerous behavior as a result of kind of being cooped up, probably more so than most. But at the same time, like on the
Everyone.
yeah,
Everyone who
coming
has
out of
any
it,
sort of neuroses has
hmm
gotten way worse. Their neurosis is self included
yeah,
because of lockdown, because of lack of social interaction, as well as like the uncertainties,
yeah.
and like
But
what the
it's
fuck
been
the government's gonna do.
it's
With
been great. It's been great for me because like it forced me out of my comfort zone in terms of like what I was doing to kind of pass the time and stuff, and I like think back to kind of the start of 2020, living in LA. I was just basically working and streaming, and nothing was going anywhere. And the massive changes that have happened to me, particularly in the last 6 months, have been, I'm like so grateful for them. And like kind of where I've pivoted in terms of like my creative output and my goals and like purpose, and kind of sliding from nihilism to absurdism in terms of how I'm dealing with the world and dealing with kind of my own demons. It's been a blessing in disguise. Don't be that being said, I don't want it to fucking keep going. Like I'm ready for it to fucking stop. But I mean, that's, and that's why I'm going to Texas. And if it didn't happen, at the start of 2020, there are a series of events that I can just go on my like timeline and just like look and go, none of this would have happened at all if COVID didn't happen. And it's so fucking, I'm so grateful of all the experiences, good and bad, that I had, because they made me grow up in a major way. And, I don't know, I feel like a better person as a result. And like, I feel like I can like look forward to stuff, and I'm not just like, oh, nothing means anything, boo, 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 anymore. Like I'm over that. I'm over that like slump. So I'm very grateful, but it was kind of tough to go through. You went through it. We all went through it. We all know it was tough, and it was tougher for some than others. And we're blessed to be in tech, so we had kind of a nimble way to work. But there's a lot of people that didn't have that, and I can only imagine this going. Like I think back to like how I spend and like how I work with money. Like if my employment fucking fell through the floor, like I would have been fucked. I probably would have offed myself, because I'm astonished at how people persevered and made it work, and went through a lot of things, and I'm just happier about the human race in general as a result of that. But yeah, anyway, I'm moving soon, couple weeks, big drive. I got a big fucking drive ahead of me, and I'm not looking forward to.
California's not gonna, Texas, are you concerned that Texas is going to go the same way as California?
I think at some point it probably will, especially, and this isn't helping things because a lot of people are leaving California and going to Texas. But I'll cross that.
Yeah, from California, from New York too, from places like that.
I don't think it's going to be that sudden, and I'm not saying I'm going to stay in Austin the rest of my life, but as far as my goals go and as far as what I need to do in the next couple of years, I'm much better off in Austin than I am in Washington or LA. I think that's where I need to be, at least for the next couple of years, and then we'll figure it out from there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really fucking excited. It's kind of just that's all I'm looking forward to. Just consistently putting out the podcast, working on my set, doing shows, and then just it's all kind of feels like a warm up now. The fucking podcast is starting to pick up. We're on YouTube now.
Good.
And that was a bummer at first, because I was putting it up on YouTube, and like the analytics it's very detailed. So like you see, I got 20 listens on the episode, and then you look and it's like on average they listen to 4 seconds, and you're like, oh God, what am I doing with my life? But now it's like gone up, and like it's looking really good. So more and more people are listening longer and longer. That's good. And yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really blessed, and I'm trying to stay grateful, and I know that me and you have had, late night discussions regarding religion and stuff. And I've kind of started to go down that path as well, but I don't want to go too hardcore. But, I'm trying to walk that line, I see you smoking, that's bad for you, right? Why don't you pick up vaping?
Vaping is gross. I don't like it. I don't like the smell. It smells like chemicals.
Chemically salty? I think we already made that joke. I think we did this entire bit on the last episode that we were together on.
Yeah, I'm a little sorry that I said that. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to, piss anybody off who's been actually kind of helpful.
Yeah.
To me, I like people who are honest, and like when people are able to tell their experiences in a very honest way.
Mm-hmm.
I admire that, because I couldn't do that to that extent. Like if I had to
Yeah.
strange sexual experience with someone that like I just was caught off guard because I was, drug addled or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would be talking about that publicly. I'd be like maybe,
Well, it's probably is
with
he
my
in the
priest.
program? Is he in the program?
What do you mean in the program?
Like, is he in NA or something like that?
Oh, oh no, I don't think so. I don't think he was ever an addict. I just think I don't know.
Because I know that really helps me. Before I was very sheltered in terms of like my experiences as a result of addiction, and like just my reluctance to even say that I was an addict. And like going to meetings and like talking about this kind of stuff like made me more open to be open about it. And I'm not like super open, but I'm opening up a bit more because I know that it helps me, and that I think that my experiences in terms of my life and what I've done maybe can help people.
Can help other people, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And
Being
I think that,
open like that, yeah, can definitely be helpful to other people.
yeah,
Just the fact that you're open can help anyone, whether you're in the program or not, I think.
yeah,
Because, yeah, I mean, confronting shame and confronting your own mistakes publicly, gosh, that's also part of the Catholic religion. Like, that's why, like, we would go to confession, because it was like, okay, you're making these mistakes, but you're going to your priest,
mm-hmm.
and he's not going to go public with your mistakes, but he's going to remind you, if you keep making those same mistakes, he's going to be like,
Yeah,
you keep making these mistakes, and God will always forgive you when you're when you repent to them, but like, why are you
it's not
continuing
helping.
to make
Yeah,
mistakes?
yeah.
Like, yeah. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not the same as therapy, but it's something like that where you have to confront these mistakes.
There is something therapeutic. I don't know. I stopped doing therapy again because what I realized was that like what I was doing with comedy, like I was taking very uncomfortable situations that I was dealing with and making jokes about it. And that has been far more therapeutic to me than just kind of telling somebody. Therapists kind of just fucking repeat the shit you tell them, I find. I've
I don't know how to find a good therapist. So.
I have like a really good therapist. She's very good at it, but it got to the point where it was like, this is kind of just the same thing over and over. And like, I know what I need to do, and I don't need somebody else telling me what I need to do. I know what I need to do to like take those few steps, but there's got to be something else. And I think, kind of working creatively has been far more beneficial to me therapeutically than my therapy was. And it might have been
a stepping stone then.
Yeah, I mean, and my therapist definitely helped me get started on a path that I needed to be on. But I think one of the big problems, if I had to nail it down, was the remote therapy. There's something comforting about going to this like safe space with somebody who you trust with literally everything that isn't replicated easily through like a FaceTime call. It's not the same. And this is the same for like AA meetings over Zoom and shit. It's not the same, at least for me. If it works for some people, that's great. But like to be in the room, to feel the energy, I find is far more therapeutic. And if I can make jokes out of these things and feel the energy of like a crowd laughing at those jokes, that is as much, if not more so therapeutic than a fucking $250 Zoom call with my therapist, All right, well, that's about all the time we have for tonight. Melinda, as always, thank you for joining me. You're a wonderful guest. And be sure and tune in next week, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.